Good morning, everyone. My name's Ari from One of a Kind Bulldogs. Today, I wanted to talk about Old English Bulldogs and aggression, specifically same sex aggression. Um, I have said this for years. 9 out of 10 trainers I talk to agree with me. Bully breeds and working breeds are more prone to same sex aggression. Just one of the things that goes with those breeds. So I always recommend pairing of opposite sexes. If you have a boy bulldog and you decide to get another boy dog or girl dog and girl dog, everything's going to be fine at first. The first puppy, the next puppy coming in, the second dog is young. It's going to fall in line. It's going to have a great time playing with your other dogs, most likely. But once that second dog hits 8 to 10 months, that is when problems can start coming about. If that dog decides it doesn't want to be second in line and tries to dominate and bully your other dog, you now are going to have dog fights. Most breeds just aren't like this, especially little breeds. Many little breeds put them together, they'll scrap over a toy, and 10 minutes later they're playing together and being best friends. It's just not really like that with bully breeds. Bully breeds are spiteful and they harbor a grudge. They don't seem to forget. I've had girls who were best friends till they were about a year old and went into a heat cycle and they hated each other after that. Certain things you can do to lessen the likeliness of having same sex aggression. So, of course, the first biggest recommendation is don't even stress yourself out and try to pair opposite sexes. If you have a situation where you already have a male and a female and you want to bring in a third dog, the important thing is to assess who is the dominant one out of your two. The one who is dominant is probably the one you want to avoid bringing in the same sex of. From there, if you do have two dogs of the same sex, heavy training, heavy socialization. Typically, I like to fix dogs later in life, but in these scenarios, I do think the benefits outweigh the costs. So I would say get your dog fixed by around 7 months old, because once a heat cycle kicks in, once those hormones kick in, you might have a different relationship and a different dynamic between the two dogs in the house. And when I say training and socialization, I don't mean dog parks. I don't believe dog parks are a necessity. I have many people who feel like they can't take their dog to the dog park, so they're not a good dog owner. Dogs, just like people, they all have their own personalities. Some dogs just don't want to be in a crowded place with 30 other dogs who are assholes and annoying and up in their grill and not respecting their boundaries while their owner is sipping coffee and chit chatting about nothing. So, you do not need to do a dog park. Socialization can simply be just taking frequent walks, taking your dog out with you, introducing your dog to people, teaching your dog how to behave on a leash in public. These things are going to help have a more well-rounded dog. Now, training is very important. I've noticed this evolution in the past 10 years where everybody seems to think they're a dog trainer. The biggest words I hear from people is, oh, we do great training our own dogs. And oftentimes that doesn't mean that they're actually training their dogs. Now, when I say training, with training comes structure and routine. You should be working with your dog numerous times a day, not for long 30-minute, 1 hour sessions. We're talking about 5, 10, 15-minute sessions max. A few times a day, reinforcing the things you've taught your dog, reinforcing that you're the pack leader, and strengthening your bond with your dog. This is how I word training. It's kind of with kids in education. You're never going to find a kid who has had too much education. There is no such thing. If you decide you want to keep going to school and keep learning, there is no negatives to that. It will usually make you a more well-rounded person. Same thing goes with dogs. The more training and work and one-on-one you put in with your dog, the more well-rounded dog you will have. And just like schooling, the kids who who have a structure, who go to school. They learn the basics of socializing. They learn how to deal with large crowds. They learn how to deal with conflict. These are things that training also does. And doing a lot of that at home doesn't have as many benefits, you know. So working with a professional trainer is a huge plus. If not, at least having a training method in play, whether it be positive reinforcement methods, and having the whole home on the same page. Large households can be really confusing. If it's you, your significant other, and two or three kids, and they're all young, and your dog's doing something wrong. One of you's yelling no, one of you yells A, one of you yells stop, one of you's just yelling your dog's name. Your puppy's going to be confused. It's not going to have an understanding of everything. So this is why professional training is a huge plus. It gets the entire family and it puts you guys all on the same page. It helps address issues and makes sure all of you guys are knowing how to handle these issues together and in a way that won't confuse the dog and will maximize the benefits for your dog. Now, the biggest issue I have seen throughout the 17, 18 years I've been doing this is oftentimes people getting a puppy and really putting in no work or training, thinking that just because they crate their dog and they're trying to get a routine, that everything's going to come together. Oh, I taught my dog how to sit. I taught my dog how to lay down. These things usually aren't going to be sufficient enough for proper training and to have a well-rounded dog. Your dog should know a lot. By 4 or 5 months old, your dog should be potty trained. Your dog should be walking on a leash, loose leash walking, and not pulling you. Your dog should know how to sit. Your dog should know how to lay down. Your dog should know how to place. Your dog should know basic commands like leave it. So when you're walking, they're not picking up random stuff off the floor. These are things that can be taught very quick. And I'm going to use myself as an example. 18 years ago, or 19 years ago, 2004, I bought my first dog, Lola. And I thought I was some expert, you know. I taught her how to sit in I think it took 3 hours. And I was so impressed with myself. Now, my second dog I get only 6 months later, I get Kane. And I actually decided to do a puppy training course. And they taught Kane how to sit in 2 seconds. And I was like, oh, wow, I was doing it all wrong. Trainers, especially nowadays, we have some great advanced methods. We really have an understanding of how dogs work, the best way that dogs respond, and how to get positive outcomes with them. So, this isn't the 1980s where you stick your dog's nose in their pee and poop and spank them and tell them to go outside. These aren't these type of training methods now. We've really advanced in how well we understand dogs and how they work, and even how we understand problematic dogs. So if you are dealing with dog aggression, some of these things can be corrected. I once had a customer, Tacey. She's so awesome. She bought a male oldie from me, and she had a female oldie. And later on, her and her significant other bought a male English Bulldog. Everything was great, and then eventually the two males started fighting. She worked with a great trainer, and the trainer pinpointed the most important part, which a lot of trainers don't. A lot of times these fights happen due to the environment or due to the owner and their stress and how they handle it. It was a lot of work, but the trainer put the work in with my customer, and my customer was able to be the person she needed to be to have two dogs that were more cohesive and getting along. And from there, the fights were pretty minuscule, and they were actually very responsive to the owner where they weren't before. Now, I do believe some of these issues, if you start with rigorous and heavy training early on, it's gonna make it 100 times less likely for you to have these issues. Now, obviously, if you put in all this work and all this training and you still have a dog who's an asshole, imagine how bad your dog would have been without all that work and training. So, and I really have to emphasize, people sometimes have too much expectations of their dogs. You need to know your dog. If your dog doesn't do well in high stress situations, if unloading your dog into a dog park with 40 dogs running around frantically, all excited, gets your dog nervous, you have only a few options. Your option is one, to remove your dog from that scenario, or two, discuss with the trainer that if your dog has the capacity to be able to handle these situations, maybe your dog has anxiety issues. Maybe your trainer meets your dog and says, you know what, these are fear issues, anxiety issues. We can slowly work on this and we can improve your dog's confidence. And if that's the case, you might be able to get there. Or maybe your trainer tells you, hey, you don't need to go to a dog park. This dog is completely content playing in your own yard with you, or inviting your few friends over who have got dogs that he likes. So don't put too much expectation on yourself. Just because everybody else has a dog that can do this, this, and this, it does not mean your dog has to be able to do this, this, and this. Have realistic expectations, and as much as I tell people, don't treat your dogs like children, because they're not. They're dogs. That's probably some of the biggest issues we have. You still also have to factor in, like humans, every dog is different. Every dog's wired different. Every dog has a different personality, and most of these dogs have different likes and dislikes. So, don't overdo it, don't push it, and don't put your dog in situations that aren't going to improve your dog's behavior or any of the issues you're having with your dog. So that's a lot of the basics I wanted to go over. Again, if you're having issues, human aggression specifically, that is something you want to speak with trainers. Behaviorists are great for that. These are not only trainers, but these are people who've spent years studying animal behavior. Their idea is to come over and not just correct the behavior. We need to understand why your dog is having that behavior. If you don't understand why, it's a lot more difficult to correct that behavior. So behaviorists are a huge plus. When you're researching, make sure you're specifically typing in animal behaviorist, and see if you can find someone geared towards that for those special needs. If you guys have any questions, or if there's any topics you'd like me to discuss, just post on the comments and I'll do my best to. All right, I hope you guys have a great day.